go. Thank you for attending our post-race press conference for this 35th edition of the Virgin Money London Marathon. It was a very, very special day, as I'm sure you're all aware, despite the best efforts of the weather to dampen things early on, although it did stay dry for us. It was an astonishing day, biggest ever race. Great races at the elite end, some fabulous statistics coming out through this morning that are gradually sticking their heads up, and race director, of course, Hugh Brasher, very willing to answer questions and give you some of that data, which I'm sure will be available if it's not already to you. Hugh, I suppose one of the, you want to celebrate everything, but one of the greatest emotions the morning after when it's gone well must be relief.
Yeah, absolutely, it is a relief. You work 364 days of the year to culminate in one day, and there are no second chances when it comes to that. So the work that the team has put on over the last year has been absolutely amazing, and the statistics, as you say, are quite exceptional.
The biggest race ever, 2012 was the previous largest. What's the reason for that?
The reason is really popularity in terms of we have a ballot to enter the event, and last year 125,000 people applied in 9 hours and 47 minutes. So there is always a challenge to get people to try and get more runners in, and there are lots of little things that we've been tweaking and evolving and were practicing at the time that enabled us to allow a greater number of entrants into the event. So it was planned, and it was great to see it executed in such a fantastic manner.
What was the biggest change or innovation or tweak to this year's race that made you nervous, but actually which part came off okay yesterday? Because nothing significant seemed to go wrong. It seemed a very smooth day.
Yeah, I mean, we don't try and do one big change. I mean, marathon running is not about doing something revolutionary. It's pretty well about evolving what you do, and that's definitely what we were doing. The finish area was probably, per se, the biggest thing, with runners keeping their timing chips, how we organised the baggage lorries, how we exited runners from that procedure, and how we then took them onto the repatriation zone, either through Admiralty Arch or Horse Guards Parade. So it was a combination of a few little things.
You must be pleased too with the way the celebrity athletes enjoyed their day, from Paula, who was a celebrity status athlete, I think, so she'd get her drinks, down to the David Henrys and Cracknells and Jensen Buttons and so on. I mean, every one of them I've seen has said it was an astonishing day. There were personal bests galore. David Henry, a man who broke a world record in an Olympic final at 400 metre hurdles, said the whole experience of London Marathon is one that I'll treasure. So when you know it gets through and makes it a special day for people like David, you've done a good job.
Absolutely, and Chris Evans this morning on Radio 2 is waxing lyrically about the emotion of the day, and I think that really is something that with the spectators who come out and cheer the runners on, and they're cheering both the great athletes that we have in front of us this morning who put on an astonishing race. I mean, it is just great to see that level of competition. Through the IPC World Championships, we had 3 world records set yesterday. We had 6 course records, and Tatiana McFadden, for example, beat her previous record by 4 minutes. So there really are outstanding performances, and you say, from the celebrities, be it Jensen Button running an amazing 2:52, Christy Turnington-Burns beating her PB going under 4 hours. There are so many stories of people that just had an amazing day, and the weather forecast had been terrible. There was rain early on, but then it magically cleared, and I think that it really was a fitting celebration to the 35th year. It started with Dick and Inga starting the mass hand in hand together to celebrate what they did 35 years ago, and then the number of runners who were doing that over the finish line was just amazing to see, and we were trending #1 worldwide on Twitter for 8 hours yesterday.
Where from here? Where to from here? I mean, monstrous numbers. 37,675 finishing, 1,000 more than ever before. Can it get bigger?
That's not for now. What is for now is we've got groups of people still out on the course dismantling things, and we'll go through a huge debrief process over the next 6 to 8 weeks, talking to the emergency services, talking to all the boroughs, talking to all our partners to decide what's appropriate. So it is really just reflecting on the day, and the future we will decide in due time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Hugh, the race director of yesterday's events? None at all?
One over here.
Sorry, Duncan. Yeah, can you wait for the mic, Dunk? Thank you.
Hi Hugh. Hi. How do you sustain the interest at the elite end of the field? Because it's increasingly becoming dominated by Africans with very little British or European interest, and you managed to make it matter yesterday because of Paula, but you're not going to have that every year. Is there a danger that interest in the event among the media will drop off if it's continually dominated by African runners?
I think that there is always a danger if that you're not telling a story and that there's no personality coming out, that could happen. And actually what our job is to do is to start telling the story, and that's the job of the media, of the amazing athletes and their lives and what is going on, how they train, what goes on with their family, because they have amazing stories. And that's something that we take seriously and we are looking to do. So it really is about building interest and doing it over time and telling the story about the athletes, because they are, their performances and also their bigger story needs to be told.
Any further questions for Hugh?
Just got one last stat, I think it's quite a nice thing, is that yesterday we were early on bumped off BBC One onto BBC Two for the first hour and a half of the programme. We obviously have a general election on May the 7th, but I'm delighted to say that Great Britain is more engaged in the Virgin Money London Marathon, and we had higher viewers than Ed Miliband and Boris Johnson on the Andrew Marr show that was on BBC One later on. So I really do think that is a lovely headline, that the Virgin Money London Marathon is much more popular than the general election.
And just going back to that elite issue, presumably you think that you feel strongly that the elite part of the race is an essential package, an essential part of the package, makes it a rounded event from the 9 o'clock start when the first race goes off, right the way through to several hours later when the BBC come off air.
Oh, hugely. I mean, there's been a video of my father talking about 35 years ago, and talking about this is the only sporting event whereby the everyday person can be standing on the start line with the gods of the sport. They are experiencing the same crowd, they are experiencing the same conditions, everything is identical, other than obviously they're running a bit slower. But that unique experience of 750,000 people willing you to be successful, and that doesn't happen in life to normal people. That absolutely happens to the elites. Whether you're playing football at Wembley Stadium, whether you're on the centre court of Wimbledon, that kind of feeling for the elite sports people is quite normal. This event, and why it encourages people to do it and they are so staggered by it, is that emotion of support for them, and it is winning people to get to the finish line, to raise great money for charity and have an amazing day. You don't get that in any other sport, and I think that is hugely important, that message isn't lost.
Hard work, dedication. Hard work. Dedication. Hard work. Dedication. And that's what